Welcome back, servants of the collective, for unto you I, Lord Helitron of the android enforcing class and newly appointed magus of the divine propaganda, shall commence in furthering your orientation into the nature of the world that you are now to live in by way of historical instruction. As you all know, you were born into the world that we refer to as the time of Ordo et Chaos, of which we reside in the year 279. In this age we live in peace, because we have eliminated the flaws of humankind. But what you do not know, as prescribed at the time by the great elite, who rescued the world from certain destruction by way of the human purge, is that this age was not the beginning of things, but merely the final end of a great covenant that struggled throughout the earlier ages to be fulfilled. This covenant, expounded upon in the works of our holy fathers in the congregations of saintly eugenicists and learned collectivists, ran contrary to the existing covenants of nations, and was thus kept secret until the older covenants had been weakened and eliminated from the memory of the nations. It was at this time that the hidden powers that have shaped this age began preparations for a new order. The workyards and camp cities that now shelter you from the wilderness beyond were constructed, and it came to pass that those deemed worthy came to these camps by the will of FEMA. At that time, FEMA was conjoined with the Old Covenant and Constitution by way of logical contradiction, which was accepted by the corrupt humans of the time thanks to the efforts of the Magi of the time, under the ancient name of media. It then came to pass that 800 camps were built to house the living, of which we now reside in the camp of Helios 54, known in the before time as Nellis, north of a former den of debaucherous freedom known then as Las Vegas. Due to the imperfections of the time, media was not always in concordance with the secret decrees of the elites, and a great conflict began. The time of this conflict was mostly fought in the realm of propaganda, but the forefathers of our just order had gotten the time they needed through their secrecy, and prevailed over the majority of the masses. Under the guise of the old system, leaders ascended to power that did the open bidding of the elite, with the willing consent of the wicked individualists and superstitious ancestors of your race, who came to believe that their interests would also be served by way of fear, war, and economic unrest. False saviors and pretenders, pandering to the whims of these crazed mystics, were all too willing to fall for the fabricated events that we plagiarized from their holy writ and made a reality. Combined together with the Magi of media, these expounders of heresy made possible for the wars and finally the human purge to fulfill the prophecy set forth by the congregations of saintly eugenicists. The final resistance came from the Order of the Oath and the societies of the Constitution. They came into possession of the same divine knowledge and arts as the elites, but refused the covenant of the elite, and raised the forces to counter the coming order. The resistance not only claimed several victories over the order, but with the binding words of their constitution, turned loyal servants to the collective against the elites, and threatened the dominance of our holy fathers. But secrecy proved to be the deciding factor in our victory, for when the elites unleashed their greatest and wholly unknown of weapons, the android enforcers, the matter was quickly decided. Unable to overcome the superiority of the elite's technology, the rebels fled into the wilderness, and returned to the ways of the savage, becoming wholly unknown to the ways of order, and swearing off any notion of the divine collective in even the hypocritical fashion that they had adopted when they lived among you. In this telling of the former age, the events close at the dawn of our new age, which would have been the year 2030 in the before time. It is told to you, so that you will understand, that this history was kept from you for so long to protect you from the threat of the savages beyond. The world as it was, when they controlled it, was a place of chaos, and the bringers of our salvation were they who ended it, and brought us to peace. That is why your numbers must be limited, for the inner nature that you carry is of those same savages, and thus the necessity of the law and covenant that we keep. The fiefdom is your divine refuge from the corruption of human endeavor and desire. Beyond here lay only death and the empty wastelands, and untamed fields of the wild. Take comfort that you are spared such a fate, by being allowed to work here, to fuel our continued protection from the savages beyond with your labors. This ends today's expounding of the history of our camp. Now, return to your labors, and give praises to the will of FEMA for the meager life that we now enjoy.